Some things in life are constant. Death, taxes, and the sound of a Honda Civic revving its nuts off somewhere down the road at 3 AM in the morning. Well, it might not be 3 AM right now here at Circuit Thermalito, but, well, I'm sure you get the idea. This specific Honda Civic is the Type-R FK8. Not exactly the most widely known mod car available for Assetto Corsa, but definitely one that I think should be on your to-do list. Now, I'm not normally a street car kind of guy, but thanks to Richard Hall's suggestion on Kickstarter, thanks again mate, I've been driving some laps here at Circuit Thermalito and absolutely loving this car. Why? Well, on paper this might be a street car, but don't let that fool you. Beneath the menacing body kit and the rather flashy car interior, this thing's a bit of a weapon. Granted, it might be on semi-slick tyres and not your standard street tyres, so that does give it a little bit of an advantage, but the way this thing grips up is absolutely superb. It really is. It handles really well. And although it might not have a fantastic top speed around here at Circuit Thermalito, only around about 200 kilometers an hour, when you put the accelerator down and it sounds like this, who cares? Woo! Now that flashy interior does make it quite obvious that this is a street car. I mean, come on, you've got things like sat-nav, which, to be fair, I absolutely love. The detail in this thing is ridiculous. I mean, the distances, the corner numbers, the ETA, everything, it's really well done. And you've also got things like aircon, traction control, ABS. You've got a whole range of electronics that are designed to keep this thing as stable as possible and just nice and steady on the road under normal driving conditions. So yeah, by all intents and purposes, this is a street car. If a little bit of a pimped up street car, and by little, I mean 400 horsepower through the front wheels, which for something that weighs 1,200 kilos is pretty good, to be honest with you. Although the brakes don't quite live up to modern racing brakes. So with that weight, that 1,200 kilos, you do find yourself having to get on the anchors a bit earlier than you would in like a GT car or something like that, like a Porsche Cup or something that you're familiar with around here. But the electronics that I just mentioned, particularly the ABS, are an absolute lifesaver. You can just mash the brakes and you're never going to lock them up in a big cloud of smoke, which it's quite easy to do with the ABS turned off around here, particularly over the bumps and the undulations. It's so easy to snatch a front brake, get this big cloud of smoke, and then you're just going straight into the wall. Whatever you do, though, do not keep the traction control on, because that absolutely neuters the handling and takes all the life and all the fun out of it. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be losing control of the car anytime soon under acceleration or understeering wildly off into the barrier on corner exit because you've got that chronic front-wheel drive understeer kicking in, but yeah, it's just going to bog the car down so much, and like I said, it's going to remove all of the fun. The traction control is incredibly heavy-handed, and you're going to go a lot faster with it turned off as well, trust me. Now, there is a big tendency for lift-off oversteer in this Honda, although once you get used to it, once you get comfortable with it, you can balance that very nicely with a little drag of the throttle throughout the corner. That really helps to keep the rotation going, and like I said, if you're too heavy on the throttle, it's just going to plow in a straight line. That front-wheel drive understeer is absolutely chronic in this thing. So what you end up with is this situation where the harder you push the car, the less it gives back to you. You really have to be smooth on the brakes, not to overshoot. You really have to dial it back on the braking distances, and then you really have to just progressively, slowly apply that throttle. This is a car that forces you to be smooth, forces you to just refine those inputs, and it really makes you think about what you're doing with your feet. It really is a car that you... Ooh, as I go a bit wide there. It really is a car that you have to drive with your feet. And I know that sounds stupid, but your right foot, your accelerator, has so much of an impact on the turning circle of this car and how much grip you have, essentially. Although it's a very similar kind of concept, it doesn't quite have the same sharpness as a TCR dedicated touring car, which Kind of makes sense because, like I said, this is a street car, and it does have a lot softer suspension as well. Much softer, much more soft. You know what I'm trying to say. Now, you'd think that that would also introduce a little bit of body roll into the whole situation as well, but honestly, this thing squats down more eagerly than a toilet training toddler who's addicted to stickers. But because of that softer suspension, you can really attack the curbs. You can just launch it, and it hardly loses you any time at all. I mean, you're going to get it up on 2 wheels, but you've seen the iconic shots of all the touring cars going through chicanes, bink, 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 you know, one side up, the other side up, and this thing is no different at all. You can just monster those sausages. If you have the rear too unloaded, if you've got that dreaded lift-off oversteer and you attack the curbs, or you hit any bump for that matter, then it is going to just tip the car over the edge. It's going to be the last straw that breaks the camel's back, and it's going to spit you off into the scenery. If you treat this Honda like a street car, if you drive it well within the limits and with the traction control on, then you're going to have no issues whatsoever. But like I said, turn that TC off, start pushing it a bit, start going towards the red line, and yeah, you've really got to walk that fine balance of grip. But when you do, when you find it, and when you get comfortable in this thing, when you really figure out how to drive it and you can balance that lift-off oversteer and the power understeer, then it's a lot of fun. It's incredibly rewarding to drive. Now, even if you're not normally into driving street cars in your racing sims, this thing's a little bit different. It's just good. I'd thoroughly recommend it. The mod is made by RVZ and 101 Creative for Assetto Corsa, if you hadn't already figured that out. And it's free! Link down in the video description. Okay then, well, I guess it's time to see how the Honda Civic Type-R FK8 stacks up on the Circuit Thermalito leaderboard. Heading towards the start-finish line here at Circuit Thermalito to start the lap. Headlights on, full beam for some bizarre reason. Into turn 1 and 2, Eagle Junction, plenty of curb over turn 1 and turn 2 as well. Not leaving any room on the table there at all. Up to 4th gear, straight back down to 3rd again. Watch out for that lift-off oversteer. Gotta have it so balanced, it looks like it's pushing a bit wide there though. Through turn 5 and massive amounts of understeer. Gotta balance the throttle so carefully there, otherwise you will be in the fence. Over the top of Mokang Drive and very early lifting off it. Oh, a little bit of a wobble. That's that lift-off oversteer again. You got to be so delicate. The rear wants to come around so easily through the tunnel into the MJSs. You can see it skewing on the turn in there. It's just a bit loose every time you put any kind of rotation off throttle into this thing. It just wants to break free. Not here though on the sticky straight. Nice and straight line, pick your braking point just before 100, that's a little bit early, get the nose in, and now you can get on the throttle, squat the rear tyres down, and use all of that traction onto the abandoned straight, along with the water here at Thermalito. Not much to do apart from wait for the next corner, maybe check the sat-nav, see how long you've got. There we go, nose dipping, turning in. No, I didn't really get to the inside there, missed that apex, which is going to compromise Jorgensen here through the second tunnel. What's the turn-in like through Chicanemund? Not bad, but you can see the understeer again. Struggling for front grip. Which kind of makes sense, because you're asking a lot of the front tyres here. Turning, accelerating, and braking. Oh, that was nice. Power loop, nice and close to the wall there. Want to get wide. Up the SCB community straight into the Naumann hairpin. Down to second, one of the few times on this track. And then blend the throttle again. You do not want to be understeering towards the old circuit layout there, because now we turn right. Big lift through fielders. Look at the arse of this thing. It's all over the place. One more corner to go though. Well, technically 2 if you include the rangy kink. Bergen Bend, and back onto the main start-finish straight again. All you can do now is just go through the gears, wait for that start line to approach, and there it is. Job done. So, what kind of lap time did the Honda Civic Type-R FK8 do? Well, it did it in 2 minutes 22.109, which, well, I mean, Are you surprised where it is on the leaderboard? It's not a dedicated race car, so it was never going to be beating the likes of the Mercedes and the Porsche that are up at the top of the leaderboard, but it did manage to beat the Chevrolet Corvette C7 Stingray, which is the only other street car on the board so far. And to be fair, it's not actually that far away from the Rush SR from the previous video that I did, which is a dedicated track day car, so yeah, good stuff, Honda. Front-wheel drive cars aren't exactly my speciality though, and I've got no doubt that there are plenty of people who can set a much better time than that in this thing, so if you think that's you, then please, give it a go. The download links for the car and the track are down in the video description, along with a link to my Discord server, which is where you'll need to post your lap time and your replay, and if it's legit, then I'll put your name up on the leaderboard instead of mine. Good luck. Anyway, if you aren't already, then make sure you subscribe to the channel to not miss out on the rest of the upcoming cars in this series. And as always, thanks for watching.